There are men who, without realizing it, walk around with their dignity in pieces, smiling just to please a woman who sees them as a needy old man, not because of their age, but because of their attitude. Nothing ages a man faster than forgetting who he is just to be accepted. The uncomfortable truth is that more often than not, they don't see you as a mature and interesting man, but as someone easy to manage, easy to manipulate, easy to discard. And yet, you stay, giving up ground, losing presence, dissolving into the desperation of not wanting to be alone. Today I'm going to show you the 6 habits that, without you even knowing, are stealing your respect, your appeal, and your power when you're with a younger woman. The last one is the most destructive of all because it kills your essence without you noticing. I'm Celia, and if you've ever felt like they treat you as a useful but replaceable old man, this video is for you. Stay with me, because what you're about to hear might just save your dignity before it's too late. Have you ever caught yourself staring at your phone, waiting for her to reply? Felt that knot in your stomach when she doesn't answer, like your worth depends on a message? If so, you need to hear this, because you're falling into the most humiliating mistake a grown man can make, chasing her approval like a teenager. This is the first habit that makes you look like a needy old man, and there's no worse way to age than that, begging for attention like a dog waiting for scraps under the table. Let me be clear, when you live to please her, you forget to respect yourself. You put yourself in a place where she has the power and you have the anxiety, where she decides when you matter and you emotionally crawl for a bit of validation. The tragedy is, most men don't even realize it. They think they're being attentive, gentlemanly, considerate. But what they're really doing is selling their dignity at the lowest price on the market, neediness. And believe me, a younger woman can smell that need from the very first minute. It doesn't matter how well you dress, how polite you are, or how much money you have. If she senses you're trying too hard to please her, she'll see you as a weak man. And weakness, in the world of attraction, is repulsive. Picture this, a 60-year-old man, well-dressed, hard-working, educated, but every time she laughs, he laughs louder. Every time she mentions something she likes, he rushes to say he loves it too. Every time she pulls away a little, he moves closer, with fear, with anxiety, as if his entire world depended on staying near her. He doesn't say it out loud, but you can tell. You can tell by the look in his eyes, always seeking approval. By the words he avoids out of fear of offending. By the hunched posture of someone who wants to be liked, not someone who knows who he is, and she feels it. At first, she might tolerate it, maybe even find it sweet. But sooner or later she'll get bored, because no one admires someone who surrenders themselves just to fit in. Chasing approval is a betrayal of your own authority. It's telling the world, without saying a word, that you're not complete without someone else's acceptance. And at this point in your life, that's unacceptable. You've lived too much, overcome too much, to be begging for smiles. You're not an insecure kid, you're a grown man. And if you act like anything less, you're throwing away your experience. Worse, you're teaching others, her, not to respect you. Because if you don't claim your place, no one else will. Let me tell you something most people won't. She doesn't want a man who worships her. She wants a man who respects himself so deeply that his presence speaks for itself, who doesn't have to beg for attention because just the way he carries himself commands it. That can't be bought. It can't be faked. It has to be cultivated. And it starts the moment you stop chasing approval and start living from your truth. The question is, are you going to keep waiting for messages, or are you going to start sending one to yourself? Because the only I love you you truly need is your own. If the first mistake was losing yourself by chasing approval, the next one strips away your respect from another angle, through the story you tell about yourself. Because it's not enough to avoid emotional self-sabotage. You also need to hold your presence without wrapping it in self-pity. This brings us to the second key point of this video, talking about your aches and pains as if they were medals. That, all too common and deeply destructive, habit of turning your aches, your treatments, your limitations into constant conversation as if that's who you are. Now listen, this isn't about denying reality. We all age. The body takes its toll. But there's a big difference between acknowledging that with dignity and using it as a banner, a shield, or an excuse. What you think builds empathy often generates pity, and pity puts you at the lowest rung of the emotional ladder, the needy one, the one who has to be looked after, tolerated, managed. That's not a place for a man, especially not one who wants to connect with younger women without losing his power. Practical psychology is clear. What you repeat, you reinforce. If you keep talking about yourself as a tired old man, your mind absorbs it, and your body starts to reflect it. You're training those around you, and yourself, to see you as someone who's no longer up to the task, as a survivor looking for sympathy instead of respect. And respect, my friend, isn't given to those who constantly complain. It's given to the ones who, despite the pain, stand tall. The ones who don't bring it up, not because they're in denial, but because they don't need it to validate their story. The Stoics said pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. What they didn't say is that many men make suffering their identity, and that's something you cannot allow. Because if every time you meet someone, the first words out of your mouth are, "My knee hurts," "I don't sleep like I used to," "My cholesterol's a mess," then what message are you sending? That your life revolves around deterioration. That the most interesting thing about you is what's failing. And that doesn't just age you, it erases you. Because no one wants to connect with someone who's surrendered to his biology. A younger woman isn't looking for perfection, but she does want to see strength. Emotional strength, inner vitality. She wants to feel that you're alive, not that you're counting down the days. And that vitality has nothing to do with your body. It has everything to do with your spirit, with your ability to speak about what excites you, not what limits you, with choosing topics that spark curiosity, desire, admiration, not pity. Because every time you step into the role of the martyr, the resigned patient, you're saying, "Take care of me, don't desire me." And that's a price far too high. So start by changing the narrative. Stop using your ailments as your welcome story. Don't hide them, but don't showcase them either. Let your presence speak louder than your symptoms. Because what truly rejuvenates a man isn't medicine, surgery, or supplements. It's the decision not to be defined by what hurts, and that decision can only come from you. So far, we've seen how losing your center by chasing approval or turning into a walking list of ailments can destroy the image you project. But there's an even more dangerous trap, because it doesn't just affect how they see you, it affects how they use you. We've reached the third point of this video, and this is where things start to shift. Because being overly generous with money right from the start doesn't make you chivalrous. It makes you useful. And when a woman sees you as useful, she doesn't see a man, she sees a resource. You think you're being kind, showing your capability, offering the best of yourself. But what she perceives is something else entirely. A need for approval, disguised as generosity. Because true power doesn't lie in giving without limits. True power lies in knowing when not to give. And this isn't about being stingy, it's about self-respect. When you hand out money, gifts, or material favors too early, you're sending the message that you don't trust in your own value. You're saying, "Look at me, I'm worthy because of what I can give you, not because of who I am." There's deep psychological logic behind this. The human brain responds to what's scarce, not what's abundant. If you give too much too soon, you become predictable, manipulable. You stop being a strong and mysterious figure and start being a vending machine. She learns she can insert the right emotional token, a smile, a sad story, a casual compliment, and get what she wants. And that doesn't create connection, it creates exploitation. You'll notice it when, after dinner, she smiles and says, "Thank you, you're such a great guy." But something feels off. There's no desire, just gratitude. And gratitude without desire is a worthless currency. Here's a simple but powerful strategy. Delay the reward. Don't give right away. Don't offer what hasn't been earned. Let the bond grow from mutual respect, genuine interest, admiration, not convenience. In practice, this means not paying for everything by default, not solving problems that aren't yours, not jumping in to cover expenses she hasn't even mentioned. Wait, watch, evaluate. The woman who sticks around without you buying her anything is the one who's truly interested, and that's the one who's worth it. A clear example: imagine you meet a woman and on the second date, she brings up a story about a debt, a car issue, or a bill she can't pay. If you pull out your wallet in that moment, you've just sent the worst possible message. I'm vulnerable to emotional manipulation. Now, imagine instead you respond with calm confidence. Wow, I hope you sort it out. I'm sure you'll figure it out. In that moment, you position yourself as a man with boundaries, with dignity, with a life of his own. And that commands respect. If she walks away, she was never your place. If she stays, then there's something more than superficial interest. Before we move on to the next point, I want you to take a second. If this message is opening your eyes, subscribe to the channel and hit that like button. And drop a comment to let me know which country you're watching from. But not just that, leave me a statement that sums up what you're starting to realize. Something simple like, "My worth can't be bought," because there are still important lessons to come, and the last one will be the most defining of all. If a moment ago we talked about the danger of giving away your value in the form of money, now it's time to go even deeper, the way you give yourself emotionally without even realizing it. Because it's not just about paying for dinners or solving problems that aren't yours. You also lose yourself when you become a slave to her world, trying to decipher every gesture, every message, every silence. And that brings us to the fourth point of this video: seeking advice to understand her as if she were an instruction manual. It's one of the most common, and most invisible, mistakes mature men make when trying to appeal to younger women. They believe the solution is to study her preferences, her phrases, her hidden codes. They start watching videos, reading articles, asking friends, or even other women, "What do women want these days?" They mean well, but it comes from a place of deep insecurity. As if the problem were not knowing enough, rather than being disconnected from their own center. This mistake takes root through a subtle mental trap. The idea that if you understand everything about her, then she won't have a reason to reject you. That if you decode her emotions, her words, her signals, you'll gain control. But what you actually do is the opposite. You become a shadow. Someone who no longer leads, no longer initiates, no longer holds presence, but instead adapts, molds, dissolves. And she notices. Even if she doesn't say it, she feels it. She sees that you're too tuned in, too available, too invested in pleasing her. And that doesn't create admiration, it creates exhaustion. When you stop being yourself and become a translator of her emotions, you lose your own value. You position yourself as the student trying to figure out how to treat the teacher, not as the man with his own code, his own energy, his own compass. And that position is profoundly unattractive, because what a younger woman, or any woman with standards, is truly looking for isn't a man who can read her mind, but one who has the strength to stand firm in his own. The consequences of this mistake are devastating, even if they don't seem like it at first. You fill yourself with useless advice, contradictory rules, and anxious overthinking. You start measuring every word, every gesture, every move. You censor yourself, edit yourself, turn into some kind of actor in a play you don't understand. And the worst part, you do it without even realizing it. You convince yourself that you're being smart, strategic, sensitive, but deep down, you're betraying yourself. And that betrayal, however small it seems, takes a toll on your energy, your desire, and your self-respect. Real strength doesn't come from understanding her like a puzzle. It comes from understanding yourself, from knowing who you are, what you want, what you're willing to give, and what you'll never compromise. That's what creates real attraction. A man who stands firm, not one who's chasing some formula to be liked. Because there's no formula more powerful than your authenticity. Don't manipulate it. Don't mask it. Own it. And if it's not enough for her, then she was never meant for you. That simple. That powerful. We've arrived at the 5th point of this video, and this one might hurt more than the others, because it's not about something you do, but something you stop being. Let's talk about what happens when you try to imitate her lifestyle to fit in, as if your value depends on adapting to her world instead of inviting her into yours. This mistake, so common, so destructive, doesn't just make you look pathetic. It strips away your essence, your dignity, your presence, all in the name of an acceptance that never really comes. Many older men, in their attempt not to seem outdated, become a caricature of themselves. They dress like they're 20, use slang they don't understand, try to look cool on social media, throw themselves into environments they don't even enjoy, all to prove they've still got it. And that's when the slow death of their identity begins. Because they're not showing vitality. They're showing fear. Fear of being rejected. Fear of the age gap showing. Fear of not being enough as they truly are. And that fear is obvious. You can smell it. It spreads like an emotional sickness. The harshest consequence of falling into this pattern is that without noticing, you start living a life that isn't yours. A life of appearances, of pressure, of exhaustion. Because there's nothing more draining than wearing a mask that doesn't belong to you. Imitating her pace, her language, her world. It's like wearing shoes that don't fit. They hurt, they throw you off balance, and in the end, they leave you limping. But even worse, that younger woman you're trying to impress ends up seeing you as an insecure actor, not as a solid man. Because she feels it. She feels when you're not grounded, when you're trying too hard, when you're not leading your own space but folding into hers. Can this be reversed? Yes, but not through appearance. Not with trendier clothes, memorized phrases, or more forced outings. It starts from within, from a brutally honest mindset of self-respect, from the courage to say, I'm not here to fit in, I'm here to share who I am. Because respect and desire are born from difference, not imitation. A man who lives at his own pace, with his own rules, his own solid tastes, and his unique style, will always have more presence than one who plays chameleon just to avoid discomfort. That kind of strength doesn't shout, but it's felt. It commands attention on its own. The key is to reclaim your coherence, to go back to doing what you love, speaking how you think, dressing in a way that represents you, being where you feel at home. If she doesn't align with that, that's not your problem. It's her choice. But you can't stop being you just to make her stay. Because the only thing worse than growing older is growing older while feeling fake. You want to know what really keeps you young? Authenticity. Saying what you mean, living how you want, and no longer asking for permission to be yourself. Dressing up is easy. Staying true, that takes guts. The difference between a pathetic old man and an admirable one isn't in the years, it's in the attitude. If in the previous chapter we saw how losing your essence to fit in empties you from the inside out, now we've come to the most dangerous point of all. Because there's something even more destructive than acting differently, stopping being yourself. And that's exactly what happens when you fall into the 6th point of this video, giving up your identity just to keep her. Listen closely, because what you're about to hear could be the difference between simply breathing and actually starting to live. Picture yourself standing in front of a mirror, but not the one in your house, the mirror of your conscience. Look at yourself without lies, without decoration. Who's standing there? Is it you, or is it the edited version you created so she wouldn't feel uncomfortable? Because when you give up who you are, your habits, your opinions, your passions, just to avoid conflict, to keep the connection alive, to make sure she stays, you're not negotiating, you're erasing yourself. And the worst part is, you do it in installments. A small change here, a quiet surrender there, a concession disguised as understanding. Until one day, without realizing it, there's nothing left of you. Do you know what really makes you old? It's not the wrinkles, it's the repeated betrayal of your own truth. Every time you say yes when you want to say no. Every time you swallow your discomfort because you're afraid she'll leave. Every time you justify her coldness, her disinterest, her demands, just to keep her around. Each one of those moments is another brick in the grave of your dignity. And when that grave is complete, you're no longer a man. You're a memory, a shadow of who you once were. This pattern creeps in slowly. At first it seems noble, to compromise a little, to adapt, but it's like a drop that falls on the same stone day after day. It doesn't break it all at once, it wears it down. And when the stone is gone, all that's left is dust. That's your soul if you keep this up, dust. Because no one survives emotionally while living as someone they're not. Not you, not anyone. And it doesn't matter how much you love her, how much you want her, or how scared you are of being alone again. If being with her means you have to stop being you, then you're already alone. Picture this, a man sitting quietly in a room, watching his partner laugh with her friends, talk about things he no longer understands, slowly ignoring him. And he nods, stays quiet, accepts, not because he agrees, but because he's afraid that if he speaks up, if he sets boundaries, if he tells the truth, she'll leave. And yes, maybe she will. But the real question is, what kind of relationship is that, where you have to hide your essence just to avoid being alone? That's not a relationship, it's an emotional sentence. It's like being in a prison without bars, but without air. The only way out is brutal, but necessary. You have to choose yourself again. There's no other way. No one's going to give back what you've lost if you don't go reclaim it. And the first thing you have to reclaim is your voice, your space, your way of seeing the world. If you don't respect yourself, she won't either. If you don't draw the line, no one will. There's no easy alternative. Either you take your place, or you disappear. That harsh, that real. You're not too old to love, you're just tired of pretending. The solution isn't to make her like you. The solution is to start liking yourself again. Because the day you start respecting yourself, you'll stop accepting half living for anyone, no matter how young, how beautiful, or how charming they are. That day, your true youth begins. The kind you can't see in the mirror, but you can feel in your soul. If you made it this far, it's not by accident. Not everyone is willing to hear what's uncomfortable, what hurts, what forces you to look in the mirror without filters. But you did. And that, whether it seems like it or not, already sets you apart. Because this video wasn't made to entertain you. It was made to give you a choice. Keep living on autopilot, chasing approval, hiding your essence, or start reclaiming what's still yours. And there's more left than you think, but only if you're willing to fight for it. Now I want you to do something. If anything you heard here struck a chord, write "no more crumbs" in the comments, along with the country you're watching from. Because this isn't about shouting it to the world. It's about declaring it to yourself. No more crumbs of respect, of love, of attention. No more surviving on the bare minimum emotionally. No more putting yourself last. I'm Celia, and this channel exists to shake you awake, to remind you that you can still live with strength, with dignity, with clarity. We're not here to victimize you. We're here to wake you up. Because men like you deserve more than pretty words or pats on the back. You deserve the truth, even when it hurts. And you deserve real tools to change. So if this felt like it was meant for you, hit that subscribe button right now and join this community of men, and women too, who've decided to stop living with their heads down. Share this video with someone who needs to open their eyes. Maybe the message you've already heard is the one someone else still needs to receive. And it doesn't end here. I invite you to watch one of the 2 videos now appearing on your screen, because the conversation that begins with you is only just beginning.